Well, hey, everyone. Welcome to Air Check Your Life. So Molly Tschang is our guest today, and she spent her career helping people say the hard things, especially when trust, relationships, and results are on the line. Her work is built around a simple idea, which I love so much. Better conversations are a skill we can actually learn. That's Molly right there on the screen. Welcome to our podcast, and we're jumping right in. When a conversation matters, and emotions are already involved, what is the first mistake people make, and what should they do instead?
Well, thank you for the chance to be with you, Matthew, and hi to everyone out there. So this happens to all of us, including me and to you, Matthew. And so I would say I'll call it the default mechanism is often to answer right away. And we answer right away. And oftentimes we think we're right. So then we answer that we're right, and it can come across as if they're wrong. And it doesn't necessarily set up the most open kind of interaction. And so when people say something to us, it's really great to be able to breathe, really take it in, and acknowledge the person for even saying anything, which might be, wow, thank you so much for sharing that. And that moment not only creates safety and a sense of, oh, this person is seeing me, it also gives you a chance to kind of breathe and think, what exactly was that? Okay. And I would offer that because in business, the default is to answer. The second thing people will do that I would suggest is try to understand where you're at. And it might be something that you're, wow. And it might be like, wow, I'm really surprised to hear that. Start with your own emotional state. And then if you see that they are coming in an emotional way saying, oh, thanks for saying that. Gosh, I'm noticing this. You seem a little out of sorts, seem a little frustrated. I'm sorry if there's anything I've done. Is that the case? Don't necessarily assume that maybe they're not angry, or maybe they weren't crying. Maybe they have allergies. So that ability to just kind of create some space, take a little time, and level set that idea of really seeing the person and letting them know that you're seeing them can, I think, just kind of ease a little bit of what tension might be there, especially in these somewhat challenging conversations.
Okay. You and I are going to become quick friends. This is so good. I say it a different way. I say most people listen to respond. And that certainly is the truth. I'm sure you've uttered that phrase at points in your life too. And I really want to emphasize something that I said a second ago, which is this is conversations rather are a skill that I believe people can learn. And that also means that most of us aren't taught. And so I'm going to ask you to get a little personal, if you don't mind. And look, I have a new book coming out called Go First. So I'm going to go first, Molly. And I'm going to say that the reason that this stuff is so important to me is because I grew up in a home where we didn't know how to talk to each other. We didn't know how to have hard conversations. And as a result, that learned behavior became the way that I operated my life. And there were many times where I did not, or I avoided having that hard conversation myself, especially in moments where it would have benefited me greatly to have that conversation. So now you're on the personal operating table. Why is this such important work for you? Why are you so passionate about it?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for sharing what you did and opening yourself up. I appreciate you for that. And which people find quite surprising, I think at times, is I'm genuinely an introvert. I derive my energy more from within. And I did not speak English until I was 5. Painfully shy, so unskillful. So I viscerally know what it's like to feel like I want to say something, but I can't, or I said the wrong thing, or I look stupid. I mean, to my core, I can feel it in my bones. And in my book, I wrote about a situation in 4th grade where I spoke up, raised my hand, jumping up and down, and I said the wrong thing. And everyone laughed at me. And I just literally burst into tears. Inconsolable. Teacher had to take me out of the room. I'm like, Mars you forever, So You hear about this diversity and harnessing diversity to get those solutions, which I absolutely subscribe to. The little secret is if we don't have a higher level of communication capability, we can't really hear each other. We can't really connect with each other. And it's really a train wreck. If you don't have the ability to cast yourself aside, to really put yourself in other people's shoes, it's very hard to have a very diverse group of people, places, ideas, experience actually come together in a productive way. I would argue you're probably better off for the homogeneous group. So yeah. I have been there, the silent on the sidelines and mute type of thing. And I know that it stinks. And I don't know if people listening, you may have gone to a big fancy school, you may have gone to graduate school, you may have gone to community college, you may have gone to vocational training, the military. I'm telling you, I know that you did not work your butt off to be a mute silent on the sidelines. And I actually believe every single person listening matters. You matter. And the only way that others are going to have a sense of the potential that you can contribute is if you can make your words matter. So it is the number one skill, I would say, not just for success at work and life, but really your own sense of happiness.
Love it. By the way, I'm going to put a copy of her book right there on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube. It is called Say It Skillfully. It's co-authored with Marshall Goldsmith. It's available right now. I also want to mention that she's got a podcast by the same name and a website by the same name. And as a matter of fact, that QR code that's sitting in the top right corner right there, if you scan that at any part during our interview, it will take you to a free gift that Molly is offering our audience today. So, okay, here's where I want to go next. You haven't just studied communication. You've lived it in rooms where the stakes were enormous. I see on your website that through more than 80 mergers and acquisitions that you've been a part of, where look, let's be honest, people are navigating trust and they're navigating fear and they're navigating change and uncertainty. And so when you talk about difficult conversations, you're not just talking about theory. I want to be clear about that. You've actually lived that, which is what I think makes people like you and I different from others that are out there. So after all those rooms, after all those leaders, after all those hard conversations, what do you now know about human beings that you wish every leader could understand or do a better job of understanding?
So, there's not one thing I would say about the person because I think each person is unique. I'd like to take this in a direction that's because you started earlier. This is learnable skill, but and it is I'm hard pressed to find a skill that's more important than this. So you're like, well, how can I go through school or an Ivy League school or any school and all of this work experience and not get taught this? Like, how could that possibly be? Is really what everyone should be thinking. Like, how come? Well, it's a very individual and highly personalized skill. Individual in that you are unique. You have a unique voice, and only Matthew can find your voice. Molly cannot find your voice for you. Okay, so the individual has to do the work. And the second thing is speaking up effectively in a skillful way is not one size fits all. There isn't only one way to do it. So it is hard to say, do this, take this test. Oh, you got a 10, boom, you're skillful. Because I can get away with stuff that you can't get away with. You can get away with stuff that your brother can't get away with. And so it's really something that is a very individual skill, which is why I would argue for folks, it is your most empowering asset. Because when you feel like you can speak up in service to the whole, not let's make Molly look so fabulous and Matthew look stupid, right? That's not it. If I can actually speak up in service to the team, the other person, the whole, I'm able to contribute to my fullest. I may not be right, by the way, but even wrong ideas will spur the cognitive thinking of a group. So the idea is, what is a way to teach this? And that's where I'm so excited about the me, you, we framework that's in the download. And me is that idea that 80% of effective communication starts here. Like, what's going on for me? I'm mad. I'm this. I'm whatever. It's legit. The question is that serving me? I might be very angry because of a past situation and now I'm going into a new meeting. But if I go in with that anger, is that going to serve the whole? No, I've got to let go of that. And that can be hard to do, folks, to actually let go of something that's legit and breathe in who I need to be. And then the next part of getting to know what's going on for me is also like, what do I want to have happen? I'm so mad. I'm like, oh, you're mad. Okay, so what do you want to have happen when you go into this meeting? Like anything, you want to have some kind of goal. And that goal may not be solving this big issue. It might be, let me just make sure this other person understands I care about them and I want to be part of the solution. And I want to make sure that we actually see that there is a problem. So often we're like, I can't believe this is the case. This is unbelievable. And you need to ask, does that other person even see that this is a hair on fire situation? Because I thought if it's hair on fire, they probably would be reacting. So that idea of really being grounded in myself, me, means that I can then literally identify and empathize with someone else's emotional experience. Can I truly connect with the person I'm speaking with in a human way, which is what opens the door. Human connection opens the door for effective communication. And once we got that, then you think about serving the whole, we, who are we together? We're in the same team, couple, we're on the same webinar, but having a different experience of it. So empathetically understanding what it's like for each other to walk in each other's shoes is fundamental to effective collaboration, powerful group identity, and sustaining success. So these 3 steps, I go through this all day long, and I reverse engineer this by literally having some of this, just the most successful people in the world and people I really admired, people who are grounded in themselves on my show. I'm like, what is it about them? They were very deeply within. They could connect with the other person, and they were really serving the greater good. And so when you do that, if you have to speak up, so this is the hard, you can think it's a hard conversation. I'm not saying you shouldn't. If you think it's going to be hard, not necessarily making it easier, right? So just think about, hey, this is a conversation that needs to happen. And this the why, I want to speak up because I think it's going to help Matthew. I think it's going to help the customer. I think it's going to help the team function better. I have a reason, and it's not like I want to be amazing and I want to make everyone else look bad. It has to be about serving the whole. When you get grounded in your purpose, and that's clear, even if you might be wrong, people are going to understand, Molly really cares, and she was speaking up because she thought this would be helpful. It may not have been, which is okay, but that changes everything. And the people I've worked with, at the end of the day, Matthew will say, it's not exactly the right words said exactly the right way. Is that I was able to really intentionally convey my intention of wanting to be helpful, of caring, of really wanting to be a partner, not an antagonist or I'm better and you're worse. And when you realize how powerful that is, you start to realize how much easier it is. With the caveat that you got to really control here, which is not always easy.
It's probably the hardest part. And I applaud so much of what you're saying. I had a counselor at one point that I was working with, and I was going through some pretty significant changes in my life. And he said, Matthew, what's important here is that you move through this the highest way possible. And he was essentially saying the thing that you just said, which is, look, I know that you're feeling a lot of feels right now. And I know that you're experiencing a lot of emotions right now, but you don't get to burn the house down because you need to move through something. And I believe that's what Molly's saying with the statements that you just made. And so if you don't mind, let's just spend a couple of more minutes on me, you, we, and the framework. But by the way, that's the free gift there if you want to hit that QR code if you're watching on YouTube. But okay. It's so critical to start with me. And some people might hear that, Molly, and be like, well, that's super selfish, but it's not. And I want you to explain why.
So this idea of the me is being in good relationship with myself. That's what it means. It doesn't mean I'm the most important thing in the world. It means, do I understand what's going on for me? And by the way, sometimes folks, we don't. Have you ever had something like there's a vibe, there's a feeling, you can't really describe it. Well, you know what? It's not other people's jobs to mind read you. So if we have to start to feel like, what is going on for us? And so this gets to some of the, you got to ask for what you need. And so that ability to say, I want to do my very best. And for me, and this is a great example, some people are very good on their toes. You can ask them a question, they'll give you an answer. Other people want to know the question in advance. They're going to ponder it. They're going to think about it. They're going to look at the computer, do some research. And tomorrow they're going to come back to you with an A+ answer. But if you make them tell you what they think off the cuff, you are not getting the best out of them, and it's unsettling for them. So if you happen to be in either of those camps, one of the opportunities, if someone isn't already asking you, is to say, one of the things that I want to do is I want to be able to rock it and really contribute fully. For me, it really helps if I have a little bit of a heads up of what's coming down the pipe, because I can get myself organized so I can actually give you my best input. How hard is that? And by the way, doesn't every manager, wouldn't you love if people actually told you what they needed to be their very best? So also, it's not your job to just somehow magically know, hey, I want to make sure that we're able to help create environments where all of us can thrive. What are some of the things that we can do as a group so that we get the best? Meetings, people always complain about the person who's the top talker At times I've been the top talker, at times I've been the person who is not. And that ability to say, hey, one of the things that's so important is everyone gets some airtime. Short and sweet, don't really want any monologues here. So just want folks to know, I want everyone to hear from everybody. If you agree, just let us know you agree, but don't just be silent because I'm not going to know. And if anyone gets carried away because you're so passionate, including me, I'm going to do one of these. Okay, time out. A couple sentences. Let's sum it up. Let's move on. How hard is that? In spirit of keeping it moving for the team. And I started, Matthew, this whole little thing came out of me starting to post some videos on LinkedIn. And I'm a private person, I'm an introvert. Like, we don't do social media. Like, are you kidding me? But I did it. And its first video was a junior person speaking up in a room full of management, which is, of course, the scariest thing to do in the world. And I thought 10 people would watch, and it ended up 36,000 people watched. And then I created a video every week for a year, and it took over my life. But I wanted people, I knew that there was kind of this pent up demand, and people needed to see, you know what? It's actually not that hard. You can do it. And I would say the big messages for me are that communication itself is a team sport. It's a team sport. Effective communication is not about what you think you said, it's about what the other person hears. So it's two-way. And because of that, in organizations that truly do put people first, speaking up is a shared responsibility in service to better decisions, stronger cultures, and the greater good. So we're all a part of it. It is not just the leader's job. It's not just the folks on the team's job. We're all in it together. When you establish that mutual accountability for it, we can really rise together.
Okay. This is how we're going to wind down, because I think this is such a critical piece to this thing. I subscribe to a philosophy. Frank Lutz has a great quote in a book that it's called Words That Work. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's a great read. And he says, there's what you say and there's what people hear. So let me say that a different way. Everybody will experience your conversations differently. Like there is your intention, and then there's what they experience based on that. So here's how we're going to wrap up today. Let's just say somebody is trying so hard. Their intentions are so good to communicate as effectively as they can, but it doesn't get experienced well. The person on the other side of the conversation has some feelings about how this thing came across, and then offers them some feedback based on their conversation. The way we're going to wrap up is for you to give me your version of how I can receive that feedback about my conversation skills, my communication skills, when maybe they weren't experienced, when maybe the experience didn't match my intentions. So have at it, Molly.
It's so easy. Gosh, thank you so much for sharing that with me. That really helps me get a better understanding of where you're coming from and what I can do better. Done.
That's it. It's quite simple.
Very easy.
Okay. But hold on, Molly, because I have a lot of emotion attached to the way and the things that I just shared. And actually, I don't feel grateful that you just shared that with me. In fact, I'm kind of pissed off that that's how you said it, because I didn't see it that way. I didn't mean it that way.
So here's the thing. My mentor, friend, and honorary father, Marshall Goldsmith, taught me the number one thing, 2 and 3, which is let it go. So you can try to be right and make them wrong and help them. They didn't understand. They missed the boat. You can do that.
Yeah.
Not going to go well. It's just not. And so you're going to be like, let it go, because they really, really were trying to do the right thing. They cared. It would have been a lot easier to not say anything. And I'm going to just accept it with gratitude.
Brilliant. The book is out right there. It's called Say It Skillfully. She wrote it with the man she just mentioned, Marshall Goldsmith. She's got a podcast by the same name, and it's worth mentioning that if you scan that QR code on our YouTube feed, you will be given a free gift. Do you want to just walk us through what that free gift is in the next 20 seconds?
Yes, it's a 13-minute audio book. It walks you through the me, you, we framework and really describes it, teaches it, if you will, and you can apply it immediately. And I would encourage folks, I do it all day long. And my last words to you would be, when you say it skillfully, the people around you rise, and so do you.
Brilliant. Thanks everybody for jumping into this episode of Air Check Your Life today. We hope you got something out of it. Guests like Molly are my absolute favorite because I hate talking about theory. I love interviewing people where after I'm done, I'm different and I can put into action what we have talked about. And I think we accomplished that today. So thanks again, Molly, for being on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.